on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks, your host today. So many prospective customers aren't sure where to get started. Make sure to check out scorenashville.org. So our first guest today our returning guest is Kris Kelso, who is an entrepreneur who's founded several companies. He spent a lot of time in healthcare and technology. Currently, Kris works as an executive coach to business owners, leads a CEO roundtable, and consults with business leadership teams on strategy and culture development. Thanks for being here.
Glad to, Pete. Always enjoy.
Oh, you always have great things to say.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, Kris, I've known you for a long time, and you know, you're someone who values relationships.
Yeah.
So how important have relationships been in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, really critical. And let's talk about relationship generally and how important it is. You know, when you think about a piece of information, right? If I tell you the number 3, that piece of data is really not very valuable until you know some relationship to an entity, right? It's 3 people, $3, 3 miles. And even then, it's not that valuable until you know, is that number going up or going down? Or, you know, what's the goal? What's the benchmark? Is that a good number or bad number? So the value is not in the number, the value is in the number in relation to other pieces of information. Similarly, technology, right? We all have these great handy devices now. And this thing, though, really has a very limited value if it's disconnected from a network.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The value is not just how powerful the device is, it's the relationship to other devices, to
absolutely
cloud computing, to you know, the fact that I can contact other people. It puts me in touch. And so the value of the technology comes in the relationship. Another example is in business. Business is all about relationships, right? A business as an entity can't really do much unless it has employees, vendors, suppliers, customers, certainly, right? Peter Drucker said the purpose of a company is to create a customer. So the relationships are where the real value comes in. And I think the same holds true for people, for individuals, that, you know, you can be the smartest person in the world, you can have great experience, fantastic skill sets, lots of book knowledge, but all of that goes to waste until you have a relationship with someone. And it may benefit you a little bit, but the real value of all of that background and experience comes when you're in a relationship with someone else, and someone can benefit from that value. So I've really grown to respect and appreciate the value of relationships over things, over information, over technology. And I was recently giving a talk to a big corporate event on this topic, and as an exercise, I went through and mapped all of my business relationships and did a presentation that showed really that everything meaningful that I've done in my career has come through an introduction, a connection, a person who knew somebody or about something. And I was able to track it all back to like one person that I met, you know, years ago that helped me get connected with an organization. And that has turned into businesses I've invested in or advised, and companies I've started, and people I've partnered with, and all the great things that have happened have come through relationships. So there's been a tremendous impact on my career from the relationships that I have and have developed.
You know, it's like I think of with a business, their assets and technology and all of that, but what gets things done are people.
Absolutely.
And the quality of the relationship is what impacts that.
So often the quality of the relationship determines the benefit of the relationship and the value of it.
So when did you first realize that relationships are so powerful?
So it started for me about 20 years ago. I was at a technology conference and I met a guy named Tim Sanders. Tim used to be a executive with Yahoo. He worked for Mark Cuban in one of his early companies. And Tim, when I met him, he was speaking at this conference, and he had just written a book called Love is the Killer App. And so I got to spend a little time with him and picked up a copy of his book and read it. And it really opened my eyes to how important that people connection is in business. And Tim is a technology guy. Like, he came from, you know, companies like Broadcast and Yahoo. And Tim talked about in this book the fact that in the early 2000s we're moving from we're moving into the information age, and we're moving from a time where the economy is shifting from hoarding to sharing. And what I mean by that is, it used to be that the value of information data was keeping it secret, keeping it to yourself. You tried to have proprietary information and secret information, and that's where you got a leg up on people.
Right.
And he really positioned that the internet is really democratizing information, and so the power of information is not going to be in withholding, because if you just try to withhold, eventually people are going to figure stuff out anyway.
Right.
The power of information is going to be in sharing.
Right.
Is going to be in giving. It's going to be in, being the source of information, not being the holder and the keeper of information.
Yeah.
And so we move from information hoarding to information sharing, and this takes effect in a lot of different ways. It's not just data, but he talked about being generous and open with your contacts, with your relationships, being willing to make connections and introduce people, being willing to share knowledge and experience. And so he really talked a lot about the power of being a connector. And it's the first time I'd heard this term, a connector, and that really means a person who is gifted at and really works on helping other people connect, not only to themselves, that would be a sort of a selfish motive, but help them connect to one another.
Right.
And the power of being a connector of people, and how that gives you influence in the community, how that helps you to be seen as a subject matter expert, how that helps you to become a person that other people want to be connected to. And by you connecting other people, people then want to connect to you, and opportunities are opened up to you. In the long run, it does pay you back. But the motive is not just to get what you can get. It's out of a spirit of generosity and of being helpful to people. And so, a couple things that I did and I took from that, I tried to develop a habit of making introductions to people, right? And have really built that into a discipline in my life. In fact, just yesterday, I ran into somebody at a restaurant. I was waiting for a meeting with someone, and another person that I hadn't talked to in a few years walked up, and she told me she had just shifted her role. And when she told me what she was doing, I said, I know somebody you need to meet. And I really quickly sat down and typed out an email and made an introduction and said, this is a person that had a lot of expertise in that area. And just making that connection, being valuable, creates a lot of value in my professional sphere. And I have to say, a lot of my business has been built on that kind of activity.
Absolutely.
And a lot of my career success I owe to being actively and proactively a connector of people.
And when you do that, so any business person needs to know, nobody can know everything. You need to know who knows what you need to know. And when you're a connector, you know who to call.
Yeah, the old saying is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that sometimes is said in a negative light, like it's, you don't have to really be very smart, you just have to know the right people and get in, and it's sort of seen in a negative way. But there's a really positive side to that.
Completely.
Of if you don't have the information, but you're well connected, you can get that information, you can find out what you need to know, you can get the experts and draw on other people's experience, and the sum is, the sum is greater than, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Exactly. Okay, well, why don't we take a break for a moment? And so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.